Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ultimate School of English. And of course, today I want to talk about writing, which is part of Section C of the IGCSE EdExcel paper. That is Section C. You will be required to write. And of course, you choose from a choice of three. Um, you could have a look at any paper, the latest specification, and you will see that Section C, you are actually required to do a writing. One of the writings that I'd like to talk about is descriptive writing. Descriptive writing. There's actually a danger of candidates drifting over narrative instead of descriptive writing. So I just want to share some tidbits that will help you as a candidate or anyone who is interested in doing a descriptive writing to do it very well. So you have to remember that descriptive writing has a unique power and appeal. Why? Because it evokes sight, smells, sounds, textures, and tastes. You must have heard that you are told, don't tell but show. Don't tell, show. So using description in your writing brings the world within your text to your reader, to your audience, whoever is reading your work or even listening. So it's a very rich genre that one can actually engage in. Now, what do we do when we are doing descriptive writing? First and foremost, you as the writer, create a dominant impression. Create a dominant impression. The first step is in using effective description is to focus on a dominant impression. Why? A dominant impression creates a mood or atmosphere in your paper. Now, this mood that you will have created is conveyed through effective descriptive writing. An example to how a writer would create a mood, a dominant impression. Now listen to this. My family ate dinner at Mary made dinner every Friday night while I was a child. We huddled close in a large red booth as we scanned the familiar menu. The aroma of gravy over creamy mashed potatoes lingered in the air. I snuggled close to my mom's arms as he ordered our drinks. The waitress brought our thick milkshakes out on a tray and placed them in front of us on a paper doily. The jukebox in the backyard played songs that we all knew the words to, and we sang along until our food arrived hot and enticing on the table. Outside, I shivered in the cold air, but in the dinner, I was cozy, munching on crispy French fries and enjoying a hot, juicy cheeseburger. Now, the question is, can you feel the mood of that simple paragraph that I've just read to you? So you can see that I tried to convey a feeling of safety, and we have a choice of words that actually denote safety. Like we huddled close in a large. We huddled close in a large red booth. We also see that here the writer says, outside I shivered in the cold air, but in the dinner I was cozy, right? So there's a feeling of safety, this feeling of comfort, and this feeling of happiness. So that is the mood that is created here. So you must have also noticed how the author does not tell the reader she feels safe and happy, but she shows the reader through descriptive detail. Now, based on that, so what is the dominant impression of my example there? The dominant impression there is one of comfort and happiness through the use of lexis and a diction that connote happiness and comfort. So remember to create a dominant mood. So what's your mood? So if your mood is of sadness, yeah, so you have to come up with melancholic, let's say, choice of words to bring out this mood in a descriptive writing. So another important thing and aspect that we should look at in descriptive is the use, as I mentioned, the text must be brought to the fore, the sight must be there, touch and all that. So sensory details, the sensory details. So sensory description uses sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste to sketch an impression in writing. So the sight, that is optical element, sound, auditory or audio, um, smell, what I'll call olfactory, touch, which I'll call tactile, and the taste, which I would call also gustatory. So they must be considered. So, for example, look at this, or hear me read out, look at these two paragraphs, or hear me read out these two short descriptive paragraphs. So listen to one. My sister and I walked along the boardwalk each afternoon of our vacation. We watched the ocean and listened to the waves. Usually we stopped for a snack at one of the many stores that lined the boardwalk. Afterwards, we walked along the beach and let our feet get wet. Mhm. So someone decides to do that, the same, but now listen to this. My sister and I walked along the boardwalk one afternoon on our vacation. The hot boards warmed our bare feet. We watched the foam-covered waves topple over each other and then slide back into the sea. The crashing water competed with the exuberant yells from the seagulls. We bought a perfectly oval fluffy of pink cotton candy that dissolved sweetly in our mouths. Afterwards, we walked along the edge of the water, letting warm, salty air blow our hair away from our necks as the cool water lapped over our toes. Well, you will agree with me that uh, the presenter of probably the second paragraph that has sensory descriptors nailed it, as opposed to the barren and flat narration that we read in the first uh, paragraph. So you clearly see how important the sensory details are. So if you have to do a proper and a good and an award-winning and descriptive writing that will actually give you greater marks, you cannot avoid employing sensory details. Yeah, so remember you have 5 senses. So can you help the reader feel you? Feel what you're feeling. Can you help the reader see what you're seeing? Can you help the reader, get the sounds? Yeah, the hot boards, you see, the hot boards warmed our bare feet. You see, that actually appeals to a sense of feeling. So that, yeah, the sense of you feel like it's not the hot boards touching your bare feet. So sense of touch there is actually brought into focus. We watch the foam-covered waves topple over each other. So you can see the waves Sorry. So you can see the waves toppling over each other. So that is sight, and then it slide back into the sea. So it's like a beautiful sight to behold. The crashing water competed with the exuberant yells from the seagulls. So here I see a sound, sound there, very onomatopoeic, crashing water and exuberant yells from the seagulls. We bought a perfect oval fluff of pink, fluff, feeling comfortable to the skin. So you see, and dissolves sweetly in our mouths. Taste is also brought there. Yeah. Afterwards, we walked along the edge of the water, letting the warm, salty air blow our hair away from our necks as the cool waters lapped over our toes. So, a clear and apt use of sensory language. Another aspect that you'll also have to consider is vivid language. So don't be vague. Have clear, vivid language. Language. So the sensory details that we actually incorporated create for your reader the same picture you have in your mind. So here I'm trying to advise you that instead of using vague general words, your sensory language should be concrete and sensory packed. This makes the difference between vivid and vague language. So they all start with the V, yeah? Remember that? Vivid for uh, vivid and vague for vague. So V for vivid and V for vague. So here I'm not talking about the vague language, a language that is confusing, but I'm talking about clear, vivid, crystal clear language. Now, listen to this. Listen to this vague line. The food was appetizing. So, okay, the food I was having, that is vague. Now, vivid bit of it will be the pale turkey slices floated limply in a pool of murky fat. You see? So the food was unappetizing. That was the vague part. And vivid there, the pale turkey slices floated limply in a pool of murky fat. Wow. So you clearly see that it's nothing that arouses appetite. The pale turkey, you show it, slices floated, floating. So like a plate is just overflowing with fat, and some bits and pieces of the turkey slices have been placed there. So it does not really. So it's actually vividly described. And then another example, the sprinkler was refreshing. That is vague, like straightforward. And listen to the vivid. The cool water from the sprinkler sprayed our hot faces. Yeah, so that is a vivid description. Lastly, the traffic was heavy. That is vague. Vivid here. Our old car puffed as Main Street became clogged with a line of clamoring motorists, fighting for space, jostling for the routes. Yeah, so in descriptive writing, you don't rest at the bare minimum. You go full cycle, full throttle to bring in a very colorful way. Actually, it's colorful writing. Another thing that you should look at is the sentence structure. Remember, you have your structure at the word level, you are at the text level. Also, it's the sentence structure. So vary the sentence structure. So when using descriptive language, it's important to vary your sentence structure. Try to avoid using the same subject-verb pattern in all sentences. Embedding descriptive elements and combining sentences can help to avoid the routine subject-verbs. So please play around because language is malleable. For example, the hall was empty, full stop. She ran towards the classroom, full stop. She entered right after the bell rang, you see? The hall was empty, full stop. She ran towards the classroom, full stop. She entered right after the bell rang, full stop. So varying this sentence structure by embedding descriptive details breaks the monotonous tone and the clipped subject-verb style. Listen to this. Resting down an empty hall, she skidded into the classroom, breathless just as the bell clanged above her. right? So you can see how we have transformed the simple short sentences, uh, almost monosyllabic, to something that is um, good and interesting. The hall was empty, full stop. She ran towards the classroom. Mhm. She entered right after the bell rang. As compared to raising down an empty hall, she skidded into the classroom, breathless, just as the bell clanged above her. So you will bear witness me that that bit, the second bit, is very, very interesting. Now, what should you avoid when using sensory detail? Yeah, so please don't overdo things. Too many adjectives. Please retain only the most powerful words in your writing, deleting any unnecessary words or just knocking them off. Number two, don't use too many adverbs. Verbs are stronger than adverbs. For example, she strolled into the room in more is more powerful than she walked casually into the room. So use verbs that are strong. You know, you're walking and strolling. Yeah, so choose one. So we have a lot of cliches or cliched figures of speech, like overused language, um, ones that have been overused over time. You'll meet them. So what do they do? It signals lack of imagination, lack of creativity on your part. So if you use fresh descriptive words that go against what people know, then that shows and tells us that you are indeed very creative. Of course, don't use too many adverbs, as I mentioned that. Now, as I wind up this session on descriptive writing, what are the characteristics of descriptive writing in a nutshell? Number one, good descriptive writing includes many vivid sensory details that paint a picture and appeals to all of the reader's sense of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste when appropriate. Descriptive writing may also paint pictures of the feelings the person, place, or thing uh, invokes in the writer. Yeah, as I said, this also, should help you create a dominant impression. Number two, good descriptive writing often makes use of figurative language such as analogies, similes, and metaphors to help paint the picture in the reader's mind. So the similes of this world, the analogies of this world, the metaphors, please, they could be, you can, and it's also advisable that you incorporate them, the imageries in your writing. Thirdly, good descriptive writing uses precise language. General adjectives, nouns, and passive verbs do not have a place in good descriptive writing. Use specific adjectives and nouns and strong action verbs to give life to the picture you are painting in the reader's or the listener's mind, depending on the type of audience that you have. And fourthly, you are advice of good organized writing. So good descriptive writing is organized. So some ways to organize a good descriptive writing include maybe you can chronologically, depending chronologically, that is move from specific time to time, spatial organization, that's by location, and maybe you can bring in ideas in order of importance in your text. For example, when describing a person, you might begin with the physical description, followed by how that person thinks, feels, and acts. Yeah, so far so good for that, and I want to believe that I've been of help. I've been of help to some extent, and if this is incorporated in your studies and your revision, as far as descriptive writing is concerned, then surely you will achieve that grade and that mark that is admirable. So watch out for more of such materials as you prepare for your assessments and as you prepare for your IGCSEs. Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so and like the channel. And of course, I'll be happy to answer some of your questions, which we'll post. So until next time, I have been your teacher, Mr. Dan, and see you again in our channel and program, The Ultimate School of English.